Dziękuję. So thank you. Our starting point will be exclusive rights. When we talk about exclusive rights, we usually the discussion usually revolves around 2 points. Either we talk about exclusive rights themselves, or we talk about exceptions. And when we talk about these two things, we talk about control. With exclusive rights, we talk about control of right holder, who's in position to decide who, when, and if can use their work. While in the case of exception, in cases when the exception is instituted, the right holder loses this position of power. So this might look that exclusive rights function as a kind of on or off switch. So if the switch is on, the exclusive right, the control of right holder is in place. If the switch is off, there is an exception in place, and right holder has no say in this. But I think this kind of a bipolar view of exclusive rights is a bit misleading. So a different analogy that I would propose would be maybe to think of it as a thermostat. So if you set it to 0, there is no control, there is an exception in place. And on the other hand, if you turn it all the way up, there is a full control from the point of view of right holder. But of course, what I'm now hinting at is the area between exclusive right and exception. Because there are certain forms of derogation from exclusive rights, which also does not fit squarely into the category of exception. And what I have specifically in mind are certain, I would say, special copyright or legislative measures, which function on the basis of which presume that the right holder agrees with the exploitation of their work. These mechanisms are based on a rebutable presumption, meaning the right holder is free to take back the control of his exclusive right, but the starting point is that the control is basically with the user and not with the right holder. So if you think about it, in these cases, we are standing the exclusive rights on their head. So the starting point is that the power is with the user, and the right holder, by objecting in a way that's prescribed by law, can take back the control of this right. Of course, this is used in specific situations where we need to deal with the clash between public interest and interests of right holders. And it was already mentioned today, things such as extended collective licensing. For example, in case of out-of-commerce works, where there's, of course, a large number of right holders, and it wouldn't be possible to go one by one to ask everyone for a license. But at the same time, an exception where we would take away the control of everyone wouldn't maybe be the best solution. So this is kind of a middle ground. When I start to speak about gray area, I don't have in mind this middle ground between total control and partial and no control. What I'm actually referring to is a lawmaking space. So, as you know, or as probably most of you know, European law is harmonized. I mean, exclusive laws, exclusive rights are harmonized, as well as exceptions and limitations. But what about these derogations that I think do not fit into any of these categories? So, as it turned out, I refer to this as a gray area, and as it turned out, currently this gray area is there is a kind of peaceful cohabitation between EU and member states. So both EU and member states legislate these special legislative measures. So, for example, member states might do this a bit more. So, for example, we also already yesterday heard about the Nordic system of extended collective licensing, which has a long history. But also European Union at least touches upon these measures, for example, in case of a lending right, where it specifically allows for a derogation from a lending right. Okay, that's what I just mentioned. Now, what I'm coming to is a case that will be soon decided. It's a case Soulier and Doak, which is a French case. Just quickly to what's the main point now is that the Advocate General has, in his opinion, this this gray area should look like this, so it should be all filled by lawmaking of European Union. And his reason is that because once European Union has introduced exclusive rights, it means that now only European Union has its European Union's turf, and only European Union can have say in any way of derogations, notwithstanding any special public aims that member states might aim at, notwithstanding any special circumstances, notwithstanding any safeguards. So basically, I want to raise awareness or raise a warning finger to say why I think this is a bad idea and a wrong one. So yeah, because if the case is decided in this way, it would mean that any national legislation that has so far been done in this kind of gray area will cease to exist. And unless EU fills it, there will be a kind of vacuum. Because I already mentioned the out-of-commerce works, but this is not the only policy area that is tackled through these legislative measures. So we have, for example, also in the area of teaching, there are these measures used in the area of broadcasting, in the area of reproduction by business enterprises as opposed to private copying. And or for example, a jukebox licenses. And I think EU is, of course, is not ready to step into many of these policies, and there's no indication that EU is either interested in stepping into these policies. There is no discussion, and so the question is why? Why should we block member states from having having measures in these important policy areas? I think there is a number of legal arguments to which I don't have unfortunately much time to go into, but I would mention, for example, there is plenty of indications just in the EU legislation, not directly in the text of the legislation, but in the recitals in a number of directives. It says that they should be without prejudice to these kind of legislative measures, such as extended collective licensing. So some of you might ask, okay, but now European Commission have come with this new copyright reform, and they obviously addressing some of these things that are now legislated in this gray area, such as out-of-commerce works. Also in the exception for teaching, there is some space for derogation from exclusive right. So you might ask, okay, now this will be replaced by European Union lawmaking, so what's the problem? But as I already mentioned, these are only two of such areas, and there is many more policy areas, such as the copying by business enterprises or some other forms of broadcasting licenses. So this would have to disappear, which would, of course, would be an unwelcome outcome. So basically, that was my simple message today. It was a bit technical, but I could get it through. So I think this area should be left free for the member states unless the European Union is ready to step in and legislate. And that's all from me. Thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.